Yo, this is Deontay the Bronx Bomber Wild, the WBC heavyweight champion of the world. And I'd like to give a big shout out to CJ Goodfellow of Sports TV. Bomb Squad, baby.
All right, man. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the tentative, flexible date of Danny Garcia and Errol Spence. But first, we're going to address these Pacquiao and Terence Crawford rumors. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell icon button, share the video. Sorry, I thought they was going to release the Fox schedule yesterday, but they determined to push it back. So I'm not sure why they're pushing it back, but I think they said they are finalizing a few things. Kind of hearing maybe Nathaniel Gallimore, Tony Harrison. Just hearing a lot of different things. Truex, and Gulo. I mean, I'm even heard either Bob Eubanks or Eubanks Caleb Plant. So, I mean, we'll see pretty much, how it boiled down. And to kind of get into Crawford and Pacquiao, maybe that's why it's taking so long for them to finalize a deal with Mikey Garcia. It's because Top Rank is also negotiating with Sean Gibbons, who actually helps represent Manny Pacquiao. So, from what I understand on Pacquiao and Crawford, and y'all know I like Crawford a lot, like what he stands for, seemed like he'll fight anybody, anytime, any place. What I understand is Bob Arum is probably lying. That fight is not going to go down with it November 14th or 20-something. From everything I heard, it's indicating even Sean Gibbons have been saying and alluding to or touching on Mikey Garcia and Manny Pacquiao. So, people saying that Pacquiao possibly ducked Spence, that's not true. He wanted to fight Spence after the car accident. Before the car accident, he didn't want to fight Spence. And sometimes I have to say this again because not everybody follows the videos. Everybody is acting like, oh, Danny Garcia and Errol Spence is done. I said this months ago. It was gonna happen. Basically, Errol Spence had to get cleared. But what happened was when Pacquiao was going to fight the winner of Sean and Errol, he only wanted to fight Sean. So if Sean had beat Errol and had those two belts, Pacquiao and Sean would be fighting. It was also not known if Danny Garcia was going to take the fight. It was talks around the streets that Danny Garcia was going to pass up on an Errol mandatory. So therefore, you could have got a Sean rematch. But when Errol looked human versus Sean Porter, Danny jumped in the ring and, basically he wanted to, exercise his mandatory right to fight Errol Spence. So Pacquiao was not going to fight Errol Spence. Now, when he got the car accident, I guess when he seen the interview he did with Brian Kenny, he called Al Heyman and said, he wanted to fight. Errol said no. He called again. Errol said no. He even called Errol and Terence out on social media and was told to me he just put Terence in there for good measure. And Errol Spence refused to fight Manny Pacquiao because of the car accident. He wasn't 100%. He see when he did to Keith Thurman, when he seen Keith Thurman wasn't 100% versus Odito Lopez, he became an opportunist. And some people just think it's cool for Pacquiao to become an opportunist. But they talk about Floyd being an opportunist. That's all Pacquiao been his whole career, is catch weights, draining guys, and stuff of that nature. But credit to Errol Spence, he turned down the fight twice. And you got an interview where he was first back working out on Ellie Sekbeck channel, and they didn't want to answer the Pacquiao question because they turned him down twice because of the car accident. So, and Earl's already said, before I get there, he deems Danny Garcia a tune-up. So that's what he said. But, other than Crawford and Pacquiao, from everything I heard, I'm hearing that it ain't gonna happen. Sorry I had to start it over, but had to restart. But, with Terence and Pacquiao, I just, I heard it's gonna be Mikey and Pacquiao unless something changes financially. So Bob is saying that he's got some investors willing to put up the money to make that fight happen. So if he do have investors that can show proof of funds, and then maybe Manny Pacquiao take that fight, but I don't see it. If he didn't want to fight a healthy Errol Spence, and he didn't want to fight Terence Crawford when Crawford is a little bit greener a few years ago, I just don't see that happen. I think Bob Arum is being an optimist. I think he's trying to boost Terence Crawford's name up. And what I understand that Kell Brook was still in the running. Also understand that Teixeira's in the running. And even Sean Porter said Bud has got other things going on. So, if he do get the Pacquiao fight, I don't think it's going to be an easy fight. I think it's going to be an adjustment period. Fight Pacquiao, I think the speed, the awkwardness, it's going to be an issue. But one thing that Crawford ain't going to have to worry about, neither with Errol Spence, if that fight does materialize for him at some point, is southpaw. You know what I'm saying? That ain't going to be a problem. Him turning southpaw is, it's nothing to Terence. Terence can go righty, he can go lefty. He understands how southpaw works, and that's what kind of make a lot of fighters unique. Because, southpaw is very, very unorthodox. Some right-handers do well versus southpaws. You got a lot of ones that still don't understand how to attack a southpaw. And with Keith Thurman, high intellect and high IQ, to me, that was one of the biggest letdowns, that he didn't know how to handle a southpaw. That was one of my biggest worries, that Keith Thurman refused to throw straight punches. And when he threw his jab and his two, he started to really come back versus Pacquiao. He was trying to come with these wide looping shots. And for a man that speaks well about boxing, that's very intelligent, him and Birmingham just need to be smacking themselves, because they should have came out there with twos and ones and twos the whole fight. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do it your way. You could do it what, Mayweather did, was he utilized the ring, he sticked and moved, he walked Pacquiao into shots, and I felt that Keith can do the same thing. But, that just shows you the gap between Keith and Floyd on the intellect level. And Keith is a very smart boxing guy, as we hear him talk about. But, it took him 5 or 6 rounds to figure out just the 1-2. And the 2 was landing and pushing Pacquiao head back. But, for Crawford, there will be an adjustment period, getting used to the speed, the power, the thump in the left hand. But I don't really see that fight going down, okay? I don't really see it going down. I mean, I know a lot of people, they're pushing these rumors, and Bob is trying to say, oh, nothing is concrete. I don't imagine that fight's going to happen. From everything I hear, I'm hearing Mikey and Manny, and it sounds like Al Heyman they trying to finalize that deal. He got the proof of funds to make that fight happen. So should be very interesting, to see what route Crawford goes. He goes up another weight class and get a belt. I mean, that cements his legacy even more. And a lot of these dudes that sour on Crawford, it just seems like everybody don't like Crawford. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it was the way he treated people in the amateurs, his mouth, his edginess, his ruggedness, his bullheadedness, or just because he has street to him. But, you could throw him in that Clarissa Shields category. They don't like Clarissa Shields. Everything I hear about her is from brothers. Like, she a hood rat, I don't like her, this, that, and the third. They don't like outspoken people. And it's just something to do with people who got dark skin that get dogged out in boxing a lot. I mean, Wilder, when he didn't say much, they hated him. And then when he started to open his mouth, they hated him even more. So, I mean, it's nothing really Crawford can do but play the bad guy. I mean, Floyd went through it. Floyd was a nice, respectable guy early in his career, nice kid, and, he still didn't get the respect until he started talking this shit. So, I mean, Andre Ward carried himself, like you would want to carry any man from any ethnic background would want to be seen and perceived, and they still didn't like him. So, it don't matter. Sometimes you got to embrace the role that the world give you. Sometimes the villain is really the hero. You know what I'm saying? And, it depends on what side you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from that angle, you don't understand where Crawford coming from, or Russell, or Wilder, or Clarissa coming from, you're going to vilify them. If you come from their background, then you can understand where they come from. Just straight up and down. And it's a lot of times where, they try to make this thing where good and evil, they try to make this thing where there's good and evil. And really, it could be two rights, it could be two wrongs. It depends on how you look at a lot of things. So, like I said, with Pacquiao and Crawford, I don't believe that's going to happen next. I don't know what Pacquiao plans is going forward. After, if you do fight Mikey, and after that, maybe it's Errol and Danny. I think Danny said he's moving up after this, but I think he'll stay for a Pacquiao fight. But, who knows? I just got some more information, so I had to start it over again. I'm still tired, but I apologize. But, I got some more information. They said Pacquiao-Crawford rumors are true, but it's not believed that he's going to take that fight. So, unless the money is, basically an offer he can't refuse. So, right now, they're negotiating with Mikey. They're negotiating with Team Pacquiao, negotiating with Crawford. So they are having negotiations. So it's PBC versus Top Rank. But Bob is saying that they got some people that could throw some money up for an out of the country fight. My whole thing is Top Rank has been very cheap through this whole pandemic and for many, many years. So I mean, I don't imagine that stops here. So we'll see, but that's on that. But you're talking about Errol Spence and Danny Garcia. They have a tentative date of November. One of the reasons Errol Spence said he wasn't going to be able to spar in September, he had a additional post, a third post to put in his mouth. He said down on the Brian Custer podcast. So I pretty much thought it would be in November. So he hasn't started sparring yet. But at the end of the day with him, they promised they got a few venues reserved for that fight. I heard the Microsoft Center. They have some venues, maybe in Texas and wherever else. They want to do fans for that fight. So that fight might not happen this year. It might happen this year. But wherever they could do fans at during the pandemic, that's where they're going to be at. So without fans, that fight probably most likely is not going to happen. And what's so crazy about it is at that point, at the point of their careers, Danny Garcia ain't never been on pay-per-view before. You know what I'm saying? This is happening when you overpay fighters. This ain't no pay-per-view fight. You look at Danny Garcia's resume at 147, it's not a pay-per-view fight. You look at Errol Spence's resume, he's not a pay-per-view fighter. They should be on regular Fox, the regular Showtime, showcasing their talent so the world can get an opportunity to see what they're really about. But these no pay-per-view fighters, man. Pay-per-view fighters are elite fighters or elite popular fighters that people gonna pay to see. And nobody paying to see Danny Garcia. You know what I'm saying? He just struggled with red cash in some people's opinion. The only reason I give him a good chance is because Errol's coming off an injury and he ain't even been sparring yet. So you never know. That fight might come off or not come off. He might get injured in the sparring. Somebody might get COVID-19. But Errol Spence deems him a tune-up is what I'm being told. So he just thinks all work, or he think Danny Garcia, all work is easy work. But, I think it's a solid matchup for Errol coming back. I think it's the best possible scenario with Errol coming back. Obviously, people probably want to see the Shine fight, but, at the end of the day, it can happen a number of different places. If they do it without fans, I heard it's the Microsoft Center. I heard if they do it with fans, they can go to another venue. So, that's what happens when you overpay fighters, man. And, this ain't no pay-per-view fight. Pay-per-view fight is what Wilder and Fury was. 3 was. You felt the energy hit different. That crowd was different. You know what I'm saying? Errol's not a pay-per-view fighter, bro. As much as they trying to make him seem, he did some 300,000 with Mikey. That was cool. He did what they sold people. Some he did 400 with Sean. No, he didn't. They did 200,000 buys right around there. So, I do like the fight, but I won't be ordering it. I ordered Rory and Mike before I ordered that one. But yeah, it's not a pay-per-view fight. That should be a regular TV fight. And they trying to turn, Danny Garcia is on the cusp of being a journeyman. You know what I'm saying? So they want me to watch a contender, that's not bringing a belt to the table. You want me to pay $75, $80 for that fight? It's just not going to happen. I'll watch it. I watch it just off the fact that I want to see what Errol Spence looked like after the accident. But it's not a pay-per-view fight. Only pay-per-view fights at that division is anything involving Pacquiao or Crawford and Spence. That's it. Everything else, Keith best days behind him. Shine has lost to every fucking body in this division. Everything else is regular TV. So that's just my opinion on that whole situation. Everybody gonna have their opinion and talking about how it is pay-per-view. If you ain't on track to do shit in this era, 800,000, 750,000, 700,000 pay-per-views, it should be no pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. So that's just how I look at it as far as the fight. May the best man win. I have no horse in the race. I probably won't have no breakdown for the fight neither because I don't know what Errol Spence is coming in like. So it's gonna be hard to predict if it's the old Errol Spence. I think he's gonna be able to outpoint Danny Garcia by 5 or 6 rounds and just outbox him. If Errol Spence got some issues and timing and rust and a little bit off. Remember, Danny fought this year to knock the rust off of a long layoff. Then Danny Garcia might, get it. Remember, Danny Garcia be the biggest puncher he done faced. And Errol do get hit, so we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can reach out if you got business, question, inquiry, sponsorship, video requests. Keep sharing the videos. Want to make a donation to the channel? Just share the video, but Cash App, PayPal description. Check out our boxing news playlist and boxing rumor playlist as well too. But other than that, man, anytime you need to reach out, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those links in the description. Appreciate that little support. Don't forget to check out our Facebook group as well. One time for the one time. Goodfellas Sports TV. We gone.